Today on Fortnite, I got second place. I was so close.
Mom, will you get me a snack?
Mom! It's time for adult conversation. With me, your host, Brandy Ferner. Hello, Adult Conversation Podcast listeners. I feel like I should have a beep, 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 beep behind me as some sort of breaking news signifier or something. So this is going to be a very raw episode. Welcome to a very raw episode of Adult Conversation Podcast for a few reasons. One is that this is just sort of a bonus episode. Is it for you? Is it for me? Processing? I don't know who this is really for. But there's a lot of things going on in my mind, a lot of things that I think are really important, and this is sort of the place where I work those things out. And I think a lot of other people, specifically moms, are thinking some of the same things I'm thinking or wondering. And so I just wanted to come here with maybe some thoughtful commentary, analysis, maybe some validation, maybe a couple laughs. I don't know how long this is going to be, and it's not going to be edited like my normal episodes are, and my family, who are loud talkers, are downstairs, so you're probably going to hear some noises as well. So, having said that, hi, welcome to Pandemic 2020, panic shopping. That was probably something many of us hadn't done before. And I'm not saying that it had to be the people who are hoarding toilet paper, but just for a second, can we just acknowledge where our nervous systems have been in the past couple days? For some of us, maybe the past week or couple weeks, depending on if we have family in different places. Just take a moment to recognize that we are in a sense of a survival mode, a lot of us, and our nervous systems are probably feeling pretty taxed, but we're not realizing it because we're still in that adrenaline response. So I just want to, for a second, just take a minute to have everybody realize where we are. And one thing I really want to say about this is this podcast episode is not about fear or scaring anybody, because I don't feel that way. I'm not in a fearful place about what's going on, but I am in a very cautious and prepared place. And I want to talk a little bit about that too, because I'm seeing some different things happening out there, and I'm seeing sort of a bigger picture of where are people's responses coming from. So I want to talk about that in a moment. But I do think we need to have a second to realize, wow, we just all panic shopped, and that was different. I'm like many of you, you're at the store and you're like, well, maybe I should get a couple things. This non-perishable, this is something I like, this is my spouse likes and my kids. And then you get to the place where you're like, but what if we're really quarantined for 2 weeks? Okay. And then you maybe ask yourself, as you pull maybe one box of pasta off the shelf, and you go, well, what if this is really bad? What if this is a month? What if this is 2 months? And then you pull a couple other boxes off the shelf. So at this point, aside from that insane hand sanitizer man and the people who are buying toilet paper, I just at an alarming rate, I've got sort of at this moment, no judgment for how people shopped, because I just think we need to realize that making choices about what you need in your home for your family and doing that while other people are panicking about it and there's things not left on the shelf, let's just for a second just have some softness around that whole experience that we all just went through and likely might not be over, but just, I have a friend who has a son who is in the high risk category, and she bought quite a lot of things. And I know that she was sort of oh man, am I buying too much? But the thing is that she has a whole different mental framework for this and a whole different touch point than we do. Somebody, where I'll speak for myself, somebody like me who doesn't have anybody that is high risk in my home. So I think it's easy to want to say why are people buying things in certain ways? And then we also just have to know we're all coming to this with our own set of agreements and baggage about stuff and trauma and real life circumstances. Also, panic shopping is really similar to shopping for camping. just way less fun. I found myself thinking the same thing about like, what if we need this? And I'm somebody who's terrible at gauging how much of something can feed a certain amount of people. So I really have no idea if we have enough food for the next 4 days or month. So it reminded me of that camping experience where I just never know. And again, like many people, as you think, well, I'd rather have too much than not enough, which is why I think people were buying so much. Okay, so something I want to talk about that I think is wildly important is the question that I had on my mind, especially yesterday, which is, okay, so what does this look like in terms of human interaction and social contact? Can I just go hang out with my friends for the next couple weeks and have play dates with my neighbors who I love? Like, can we just all play outside together? Because that sounds like a way better way to deal with this whole thing in terms of mental health. But so I think the thing is a lot of us don't know the answer to this. And yet, I think Italy has taught us something. I think if we can look to what Italy has learned in this, I think that that's a wise thing to do. But there was this article that went by that I think is really quite important, and I've seen a ton of people post about it. You may have seen it. It's called Social Distancing. This is not a snow day. The author of this article is a primary care physician and public health leader, and their position on it was really interesting and helped me figure out kind of where my head is at on this. So number one, this is like a list of things that we need to be doing. And basically what the author is saying is that this isn't like what I wanted it to be. This isn't a snow day where you gather with your friends and you go do all the fun things that you've wanted to do. We have to take this seriously. And I'm becoming alarmed by the people online that I'm seeing and in real life that are not taking this seriously. I would imagine a lot of you have been on like your mom's groups on Facebook and seen people posting asking, is Big Air open today? You know, the big jumpy trampoline germ factory and things like this. Like, is the gym childcare open? And I'm flabbergasted at why, especially like our schools have shut down for 3 weeks. I'm sure a lot of you are in similar situations. I'm so curious why, if the school feels like we need to be shut down for 3 weeks, why we then are going to undo that by then being around other people in tight quarters, especially with children who are not great at not putting their hands in their face. Yeah, my daughter the other day was like, Mom, look at my wiggly front tooth. And then I kept her home from school the next day because I knew her hands would be in her mouth the entire time. Anyway, so this article was really great because it really talks about what we need to be doing. And so the first one is we need to push our local, state, and national leaders to close all schools and public spaces and cancel all events and public gatherings now. And this is something that Italy didn't do early enough and is why they're in the situation that they're in. So this is one of the major lessons of Italy is it benefits all of us to be cautious rather than to be flippant. I mean, I can't say that enough. But number two, I think this is the one that's so important for many of us who are wondering like, but our kids love to see their friends and all of that thing. Number two, they say is no kid play dates, parties, sleepovers, or families and friends visiting each other's houses and apartments. The next line of it says, this sounds extreme because it is. We are trying to create distance between family units and between individuals. It may be particularly uncomfortable for families with small children, kids with differential abilities or challenges, and for kids who simply love to play with their friends. But even if you choose only one friend to have over, you are creating new links and possibilities for the type of transmission that all of our school, work, public event closures are trying to prevent. I'm going to read that part again because I don't think people are really taking this to heart. Even if you choose only one friend to have over, you are creating new links and possibilities for the type of transmission that all of our school, work, public event closures are trying to prevent. So to put that in a little bit of context, I saw on one of the mom Facebook groups I'm on today that somebody posted that someone who works at their 97-year-old grandmother's senior living facility has tested positive for coronavirus. And so this mom was worried because she said, we've been there a lot in the past week, and I'm worried that I've been out in the world spreading this to everybody unknowingly. And so this is the thing where I think people are maybe not taking it seriously enough, is there are going to be more and more of these things. And again, this isn't to scare people. This is legitimately, if we just look at what's been happening in the other countries, there's all of a sudden going to be these situations where people are testing positive for this. And then we're going to go, oh, I was there in the last week. So what we're trying to do is make it so that there's less of that, so that if we self-quarantine right now, we mitigate some of that spread. And what blows my mind is that I see people not adhering to this. And I think to myself, even if you just do it for a week, like, because at this point, this is like an unknown thing, right? We've never been through this before. So to see people be so sure about their social contact that they're continuing to have is just legitimately like boggling my mind. Like if we can all just for a week at least, I mean, I'm sure it's probably going to be longer than that, but if just for a week we can say, you know what, I'm going to err on the side of caution. It doesn't have to be fear. Fear and being cautious do not have to live together. Like I said, I don't feel fearful, but I do want to be thoughtful about the choices that I'm making. And if we can do that for the next week until we see numbers come in, like every day the numbers in the US are going up. In my county, the numbers have gone up. They were 3 cases, then it went to 6 cases, then it went to 9, and then this morning when we woke up, it was at 13. Again, and we're not even, I'm not even in the mental space or have the background to get into the fact of the lack of testing. So these numbers are not even accurate with what we're seeing. But to see this happening and to see Italy begging us, you guys, we felt the same way. We thought just go about life, and that's what we did, and look where we are. To see people doing that in our country and just around me, I'm like, I just can't understand it. So anyway, and there's this sort of argument people are making that's like everybody's got to do what they're comfortable with. And although I usually totally believe that, and I mean, we can't control other people, I also think it's being thoughtless and careless and irresponsible to still be out and be social when you don't need to be. Right? There's a whole other conversation about people who need to be doing this and certain industries that need to exist and people with children or who are caretaking people who need medication and all of these things. But I'm talking about unnecessary social interaction. Why we as Americans, I mean, I already know the answer to my own question, but I'll say it anyway. Why we Americans cannot be put out to change up something that could save lives that other countries have shown to save lives is beyond me, especially when we're dealing with something that's brand new that we don't know how it works. I'm mind boggled. Okay. So I guess if I was going to get on a soapbox, I would urge people to err on the side of caution rather than to be flippant about this whole thing and think like, nah, I'm not going to do this. I also think this boils down to a little bit is people not wanting to look stupid. I think it's an ego thing. I think there's a couple things going on. I think it's an ego thing partially. And I know maybe you guys have seen the memes going around that say we need to be okay with looking stupid if we are overcautious about this rather than the opposite. And I just think that is exactly true. Someone else said something like, it's going after this, it's going to look like if we do all of these things like self-quarantine and the schools closing and all the stuff that we're hoping is happening. Someone said it's going to look like we overreacted, but we actually avoided a crisis. So even at the end of this, if it's not so bad here, we may be like, well, see, it wasn't so bad. We didn't need to do all of this. But maybe had we not done all of it, it would have been even worse. And I think the next couple days, the next week, the next 2 weeks are really going to open our eyes to this. So my question for everybody is, why not err on the side of caution? Okay, so then this goes back to what I'm saying about people not wanting to seem stupid. I would much rather have the story that like, hey, remember that one time we all freaked out about the pandemic and, had our kids out of school and we weren't even like hanging out. Remember that? That was crazy. Rather than the alternative to that, which is happening in other countries. So while I'm speaking about this, I wanted to pull something up that is from the New York Times, and it was just updated today that has the different cases by the different countries. So I'm looking at a map that is on from the New York Times. And so it's showing, of course, we know Italy had 21,000 plus cases. We know China had 80,000 plus cases. And now we're seeing that Spain is going on lockdown and France to follow. And so Spain has 5,700 cases. France has 4,400 cases. And then I look over here at the US and we have 2,400 plus cases. Again, remember, this is people not, we don't have adequate testing going on. And so when you think about the different population sizes, you think, well, like and I think this is why some people are not taking it seriously, is because they're thinking, well, that's for how many people we have, that's nothing. But here's where I ask the question again. Why would we not be cautious? Why would we not be cautious this week? I think looking in hindsight, this week will be really valuable to us. And if we put more regulations in place, self-quarantine in place, and actually have people take it seriously, we could definitely lower the number of cases that are going to exist around us. So I don't know how many times and ways I can say it, but people, please take this seriously. It's also a little bit frustrating to I don't know if any of you have had this experience, but with some of our boomer generation family members, trying to get them to take it seriously, for whatever reason, they seem to be a group of people that aren't responding to this in necessarily cautious ways. And so I know that a lot of us, we're all texting about how the amount of time that we're spending trying to help them understand how important it is to limit the social interaction and how it's not just fake news. It's things that are legitimately happening in other countries. I mean, if you've got seniors with social lives, they do not want to give that up, which is just wild to me. So I just want to validate for any of you out there who are feeling frustrated, who are like, wow, there's this whole group of people that I'm changing up my life to try to protect, who are this high risk age group, and they won't even protect themselves. It's a little bit crazy making. Okay, something else that I have been feeling very passionate about, I posted about it on the adult conversation pages yesterday, is we're in the middle of this unknown time, this crisis, this pandemic, schools are closing. We're not allowed to have social interaction, so a lot of support systems are breaking down, and a lot of this weight and this burden is falling on the shoulders of moms. And so I had this post I just wanted to read to you guys because I think a lot of people can relate to it. I know I'm seeing posts about similar things in my mom's group, so I'm just going to read this to you. I wrote, moms who have a spouse working from home, if you are scrambling to keep the kids quiet and out of your spouse's hair while they work, make phone calls or take meetings, please don't. Hear me out. We moms have been given a chance to illuminate all the unseen work we constantly do to help our spouse's employer have a business that runs smoothly. Work that is often unfair and hard on us so that things can be easy on them. Right now is unique because given the circumstances, there is less worry about losing one's job for having unruly children in the background. So let's show them what's actually behind this mom-held curtain that supports and protects their child-free patriarchy. I'm just imagining all the moms out there who are already panicked, having prepared and shopped for quarantine, who are also keeping stir-crazy children quiet, tended to, and hidden, while nothing changes for their spouse and employer. We cannot let this happen. We cannot let moms bear the weight of everything they already do and then add a pandemic and the childcare that requires to the list. Spouses need to become part of the childcare solution during these times, and employers need to support that. Hours may need to shift, output expectations lowered, and spouses may need to feed babies or tend to kids while in meetings, just like many of us moms have done for years. I'm not saying we should sugar the kids up and send them into the room during an important call, although I will provide the candy. But I am saying that, fellow moms, this is the time to stop creating the facade that's breaking us. Business cannot be as usual, so let's not let it be as usual. Let's ask for equal help in dealing with the needs that a worldwide crisis creates in each of our homes, and show our spouses and their employers what it looks like when family life and business life are forced to merge. We cannot and should not carry the burden of this entire thing ourselves. Now, who wants pixie sticks? So I'm really passionate about this because what I see happening, and maybe it will change as our numbers start to grow here in the coming week or two, but what I'm seeing happening is I'm seeing a lot of people working from home, and I'm seeing a lot of moms who have the added pressure on top of planning for quarantine and all the home-cooked meals that now have to happen and all of that. I see them also having to keep stir-crazy children quiet while their spouse is on an important business call. And what I'm calling for is for businesses to bend towards us. We bend towards them in so many ways, and we should continue to bend towards them in ways that are feasible, but we need employers to bend towards us. And if we keep up that facade and we keep the kids quiet downstairs, they'll never understand what's really going on behind the scenes. So I'm advocating for not keeping the kids quiet. If loud kids are on a business call, maybe that will show employers like this is real family, this is real life going on, not to mention that we're amid a crisis. So I know us women, we are always the ones who swoop in and fill in the gaps of broken systems. And I feel like we cannot do that this time also. We cannot make businesses continue to run smoothly by breaking our backs. Any mom who stayed home with kids and tried to keep them, stayed at home with kids at all, but also tried to keep them quiet and fed and get them enough vitamin D. But now that we can't have social interaction, like there is a lot of stress on us. And so I think that we need to be more vocal about saying to our spouses, hey, I'm not going to do this thing all by myself. I cannot take on all of the childcare. And obviously everybody's situation is different. So like for me, I work from home with all the different things that I have going on. So I also have things I need to get done. Obviously I'm way lowering my expectations and I have podcasts sort of, in the can. So all of that will be okay. But I have other stuff going on too. And even for moms who don't have work other than taking care of the kids, this is still a hugely stressful time. So I am advocating for conversations between spouses that are like, hey, we're in the middle of a pandemic crisis. How are we going to split all of the stress and the childcare and the meal making and the planning and making sure kids are getting the outside time? How are we going to share that? So I urge everybody to have a conversation like that, because I think if we just take all of that on ourselves, we are not helping the situation. We still let the machine think that everything's fine behind the scenes because it never bothers them. So let's let it bother them a little bit. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying that anybody should lose their job over it. But I am saying that we need enough is enough. We need to say no during a time of crisis. Like we talk about self-care and everybody says, we should put ourselves on the top of the priority list. Well, like, let's actually fucking do that and require that our spouses' employers listen to that. And again, I'm not saying that it's like business doesn't have to happen at all. I'm just saying we need to be bending towards each other and we can't be the only ones doing the bending. Okay. Oh my God. I just get so fired up about it because in times of crisis, we so revert to our gender roles that and then I see, so many of us moms are already at a breaking point. And then, I have to laugh in a sick way about like, oh, you thought you were anxious about motherhood and the world already and about politics. Like, let's throw a pandemic on there and see how you guys handle that. So I feel like this may be the time to say like, hey, we're not going to handle all of it. So, another thing I had posted yesterday on Twitter was, moms, don't fall into your gender role during this pandemic. Don't keep your stir-crazy kids quiet so your spouse can work from home. Don't let business happen as usual. We moms cannot solely support the burden of this pandemic. Employers need to shift expectations. Just say no. Okay, I'm pretty adamant about that. Okay, moving on. Check. I know lots of us have started doing some sort of schedules so that the next 3 weeks don't feel like we're just flailing and there's no guardrails around what we're doing. And especially that we really shouldn't be having social interaction and going out. There's a lot of quality time coming up. So I know I have friends who really love structure. And so for them, a schedule is really important. And different schools, some people's schools have sent home work to do, others haven't, ours has not. And so this morning I sat down, with my family, we had a little bit of a family meeting and said, okay, we talked to the kids about everything and said, What are things we're going to have to be mindful because you're not going to be at school. So there's a certain routine that won't be there and you won't be getting as much activity and, you won't be learning things. And so basically what I said is this is not going to turn into endless screen time and snack time. So let's put some rails on it. So what we did is we wrote down what was important to us to still maintain. And I thought about putting them in. So I wrote out different times from like 9 in the morning till 6 at night and where was each slot going to go. And then I realized I don't really work that way. I work better with an umbrella. And then we can like with not, maybe an umbrella isn't the right word, but these bigger things that are important to us. And then every day we can fit those in where it works. So for example, I don't have my list in front of me, but things that we had on the list were creative time. So that's like drawing. My son is working on these Warhammer figurines that he's putting together and painting. We had reading time, which is hugely important in our house. Of course, there would be free time, screen time. And then there would be outside time, which is us going for walks outside of the neighborhood or in the neighborhood, where we're keeping our distance. We just went on a family walk up at this college that's beautiful, that's near us. And we passed, with 6 feet of distance, this other family. And we both were kind of laughing as we passed and we said hi. We were like, human interaction. Oh my God. It was, kind of a funny moment. But so, okay, outside time to get sunshine, vitamin D, and then also inside exercise time. So yesterday, my kids were home from school and we did, if you don't know about Cosmic Kids Yoga on YouTube that's free, get into that shit because this lady is totally bonkers. I mean, she's bonkers in like a beautiful way, but those are so fun for kids probably, my son's 13 and he heckles them, but he will still sort of do them. So any little kids through like middle school, you can maybe still get them to do it. But she does these yoga exercises that are basically you're in a story. So you're acting out all the different parts, but she does a lot of Disney stories and a lot of other ones. So that's something. And we also Googled yesterday, what was it? Family exercises, family aerobics. And we did one that was by Fitbit. So those are a couple things that we've been doing. So that was on our list of things that are important to us is we need to also have some exercise time because even just not walking around at school is going to be a big change for us. So what we did is we took those things and then we also put learning on there, although I'm really torn because I'm like going to have my daughter maybe do some of those online programs from her school maybe, but I'm also not, for me and my family, not about putting academic pressures on them. So I saw this thing go by that I just thought was really a great perspective. It was from I think a homeschooling group. It said, my advice for any parents wanting to homeschool during this school shutdown, don't. It's going to be stressful. If things get worse, you're going to be stressed. Your kids are going to be stressed. Your kids might be scared of things they've heard or seen on TV. Arguing with your kids to do work is not what anyone needs right now. Instead, cuddle up together and read. Take turns reading. Read them your favorite novel. Yes, you can read novels to kindergarten-age kids. Do a puzzle, build a fort, bake, watch TV together, paint, get out the Lego and build together, set up a tent in your living room and camp out. Look at photos of when you were a kid. In other words, don't stress about them forgetting. Don't stress about homeschooling them. Just spend time together. Your kids won't learn much if they're feeling stressed. Though this is a scary time, it could very well be a time they remember as the best time in their life. I really think that there's a lot of truth to that. This idea of this business as usual. Like, this is not business as usual. So, I know because some kids are going to feel like they really like the distraction and parents are going to feel like they really like the distraction as well. But the stress levels, like I think we need to go back and remember what our nervous systems are dealing with and processing right now. And gosh, that line where she says like, nobody needs to be arguing with their kids about academics right now. Like maybe we can take that to heart. But anyway, going back to this idea of these things that are important to us that we want to make sure that we do every day, we decided to know that we have those and make a list of them and have them hang up. I maybe even do like a chart where we like X off every day that we tended to all of them. But it just didn't work for us to do them at at a scheduled time every single day. Because we asked our kids' input on it, and my son was like, "Yeah, but what if my friends aren't on Xbox until till 2 p.m., but I already did my screen time earlier and I want to be able to talk to them or whatever. It's like, yeah, that's a good point. So we'll see how it goes. I'm curious if you guys want to share with me through the Adult Conversation podcast discussion group on Facebook or private message me how the routines are going for you guys. It's going to be interesting to see how we're all doing. Part of me feels like anybody who's ever been like, maybe I could be a homeschooling mom is going to get their chance to see what that life could be like, even not being heavy on academics, but just seeing, having your own set schedule. Like, what does that look like? So I wonder if the schools may lose some students after this is all said and done. Also, another rule that I had to set up the day one, like hour two of my kids being home, was having certain times that the kitchen is open and closed, because what it turns into, specifically one person in my family, is just snacking like the entire day or eating. And it's you guys, if you've listened to this podcast at all, you know that is the end of me, the constant snack asking. Even if they can get it themselves, it's like your body needs at least 15 minutes that you're not eating food to process it, right? So I'm going to do this thing, and I told them that I was going to do this thing where after we have breakfast, and I've had to do this in the summer too, the kitchen will be closed from, let's say we have breakfast at 8:30, kitchen is going to be closed until 11:30 or until lunch. So make sure you eat a big enough breakfast. So I'm not looking forward to policing that, but I think it's going to be necessary because otherwise it's just going to be screen and snacks. I mean, the amount of screen management that we're all looking at in itself is it's going to be a lot. Also, shout out to everyone who bought a Peloton bike who is like, yes. And shout out to germaphobes. So I have a friend whose husband is a huge germaphobe. And I asked her, like, how is he doing during all of this? Is he coming out at all? And it turns out not only is he doing fine, but he's doing great because finally he's not the germaphobe. Everybody, well, not everybody, as we're learning, but it's like he's having his day in the sun. Like, what? Hand sanitizer and gloves? Like, he's like, that's my life normally. And now everyone else is welcoming it. Like, he's just like, he feels normal now, which I think is a hilarious concept. So shout out to germaphobes feeling normal. And I would imagine some of them are like riddled with terror also. So sorry to those germaphobes, but to the ones having their moment, like, soak it up. Just not too much to get sick. Just soak it up. Another thing that came up is questioning what are necessary and unnecessary outings. So my son takes tennis, and we got a letter from his tennis company, it's $18.99, and the Wells Fargo wagon delivered us the letter. No, we got an email from my son's tennis school basically saying, we're taking precaution. Our classes are really small anyway. We're doing a new technique where we're going to have space between the kids, and we're definitely not going to let them high five or anything like that. And it's going to be great because kids need to have exercise and, boost their immune system. So it was like all these emails that we're getting that are trying to tell us what Lululemon, like places that you're like, I don't care what you're doing about COVID-19. Like, I've never, like Cox Communications, like, I don't care what the telecom, like, we don't touch each other. Anyway, so I could tell that it was a little bit salesy of a email trying to get us to stick with them. But also I believed in some of the things that they were saying. But then the more that I thought about it, I was like, well, especially in this unknown time, in this like week or two where we're just not sure how this is going to hit us, I don't know how I feel about kids touching balls, hitting the balls, and then everybody in the class then picks up all the balls. And I know that they use their rackets, but like there is lots of ball handling, communal ball handling here, everyone. I'm so thrilled to be able to say those words in all seriousness. So I feel like, at least for the next week, I want to be cautious and pull him out just until we know more. But I'm really nervous about what this pandemic is going to do to small businesses. And so I'm not able to do this for everything, but I told my son's tennis coach, I said, we're going to pull him out for the next week, but please bill us as if he was still in class, because I don't want to see you suffer and your tennis school and your family and like their financial life. I don't want to see you suffer because of this thing. And I'm in a place where, I can do that for a couple weeks if need be. So I'm doing that with my son's tennis, my daughter's gymnastics, and her ballet, because I think those kinds of things, potentially if everybody's pulling their kids from these things and pulling the money from them as well, then these are things that could die out and not come back. And these are things that are not necessary to be doing right now in the first pandemic that we've ever seen in our lifetime. My son's tennis game is not a priority. My daughter's gymnastic time, nor her ballet time, is not a priority. So I think it's important that we be looking at that. So I'm not the kind of person that has a whole bunch of ideas of how to entertain the kids. There's so many articles being written about it right now. I'm on a bunch of Facebook groups with other writers who, write for different media outlets. And right now it seems like the only thing people want to read about is this pandemic. So there's a ton of great stuff out right now about fun activities that you can do indoors. There's even some museums that have virtual tours that you can go on. There's so much stuff if you look online, so I'm not really a resource for that. But one thing that I do love is there's a podcast called Brains On for kids, and they have an episode about the coronavirus and about how germs spread. And it's a fun and funny and silly way for kids to understand what the coronavirus is and how germs spread. And so I know a lot of us are trying to be thoughtful about the conversations that we're having in front of our kids. Although it's hard because there's real things that we have to talk to them about. And so I just thought that Brains On episode was really a nice education tool around this thing that could potentially be scary if we're not educating them about what's going on. So check out Brains On. They're a great podcast. They do lots of things about science. There's also one called Smash Boom Best that I think might be by the same people, where people debate what's better, pizza or tacos. Or I think one of them was what's better, unicorns or dragons. So it's an interesting podcast about having a different point of view and perspective and trying to debate and state your case and all of those things. So gosh knows we are going to have a lot of time, quality time to spend with our kids. So those are a couple podcasts that I know about. Well, I'm not sure that anyone found this episode interesting or validating or any of the things, but I know that a lot of us have a lot going on right now, and I find myself glued to my phone and the news and just kind of trying to piece through everything. And I think that that's a normal response to something new happening, is like, I want the latest information. I want to be making informed choices. And I'm not in a fearful place, but I do want to be alert, and I do want to be taking precaution rather than doing the opposite of that. And it's a bummer that other people not taking this seriously actually affects all of us in a potentially huge way that we're going to find out in the next couple of weeks. So let's take precaution so that we can help other people. And maybe, like, for me personally, I think I already said, I'm not worried about me and my family getting it, but I am worried about making the numbers shrink and about flattening that curve and about making the impact on our healthcare system more manageable rather than having it be a big spike because everybody just didn't want to change their lives for a week or two. So let's be mindful, everybody, and just know that taking precautions and being fearful do not have to exist together. You can just be cautious without being in a fearful mindset. So everybody out there, I send you patience. I send you so much patience. Oh, I mean, there's so many of us, like day one, who are just like losing it, right? And there's so much happening. It's like, it's not even just kids. It's also trying to have like our spouse's work, seep into our home life. There's so much that we're juggling right now, including making all of our meals at home. There's just, it's like motherhood, like squeezed, it's like from all the different angles, it's squeezed. So good luck out there and Godspeed, my friends, especially with Frozen 2 coming to Disney Plus this weekend. And if you haven't binge watched Love is Blind, get on it.